Richard Hattersely here, live from Accountex, and we're taking Small Change on the road. At Small Change Live, we've assembled a panel of small practice experts. We're joined by ICPA's Tony Margratelli. Hi, Tony.
Hiya.
We're also joined by ACCA's Craig Vickery. Hi, Craig.
Hi.
And we're also joined by Della Hudson. Hi, Della.
Hello.
And Tony, it's safe to say that the last few years, small practitioners in particular has been hit by unprecedented amount of change. So what are you sensing the mood is for accountants at the moment?
The mood within the small practitioners at the moment is just one of, you know, we listened before and we thought it was all going to happen. Things have been put back, things have been changed. So now it's more a case of, well, I'm going to wait and see. If you take MTD for an example, it all got pushed back. We've got VAT coming up April 19. Nobody has yet seen the hocus pocus software that is the linking software for your spreadsheets. No one's even seen it. And yet we don't know if it's going to cost money, don't know if it's going to be easy, we don't know how it's going to work. Nobody's even seen it, right? And yet we're supposed to be going in April 19, which is not long. So basically the practitioners are sitting back saying, all I can do is wait. So they're just waiting and sitting there on that. We've got GDPR, of course, the new kid on the block. Everyone's just sitting and saying, oh, well, let's see what's going on with that. So it's very much, the practitioners know there's changes happening, but until we can get something concrete and definite, you can gamble on all different scenarios, but that time has gone. Now, practitioners are pragmatic. They're sitting quietly and they're saying, when we know, we will go. We'll deal with it when we know what it's about. And you can't argue with that.
So do you think in general the uncertainty in the profession is leading to higher stress levels and just... No. Stress
levels is something that, you know, with all honesty, has always been around. Practitioners have always been under stress. If you're dealing with 100, 200, they'll know. If you're dealing with 300 clients and they all have different ideas and they all have different values and different costs and all the rest of it, that is stress. Accountants have been dealing with stress for a long, long time. The difference is, with all due respect, guys like yourself in media are suddenly woken up to it and picking up on it, and they're writing about it. But it's nothing new. Stress has always been in our profession and probably always will.
Craig, from how's the ACCA seen these last few years? Have you seen practitioners coping well under all this uncertainty?
I think practitioners now are looking for much more advice. They're looking for almost turnkey advice efficiently, effectively, economically available that they can just get, they can turn the key and go with. We've been actually partnering with a lot of organisations such as AccountingWEB to make sure that advice is more readily available. So I think where the difference in recent years is the demand that practitioners are making, quite rightly, is about I need this advice and they're shopping for that and they want it to almost same-day delivery.
And Adela, one of the trends which we have seen is maybe not all accountants, but there have been some accountants which all this digitalisation coming in has sort of frightened them and they thought much more about selling up and moving away. And you put together some really good articles on AccountingWEB recently about succession and selling your practice. So could you talk us about sort of this trend in general and how the best route for accountants to take this step?
I think every time there's a big change and another pressure on accountants, the February following just sees a huge wave of people looking to sell up. But it will always be that the best run practices command the greater prices. So don't panic sell, build up your practice. If you're selling it for cash, then you need to prepare, you need to embrace all these changes to get things ready. Before I sold my practice, we were pretty much MTD ready, sitting there with all the bookkeeping ready, waiting for the software interfaces and HMRC, the balls in your court.
So in this moment of uncertainty, if it is something that you're thinking of doing, it is certainly a good step to prepare your practice and to think ahead.
Exactly, but on the other hand, if you want to get out without having to do that, you will have to accept you will sell for a lower price.
Brilliant. Tony, recruitment is another hot topic which we've seen on AccountingWEB. Is that something which you're finding small practitioners suffering with, being able to get really good quality recruits?
It's always hard to get good quality staff. However, what we're seeing with the introduction of apprenticeships, and all the major institutes, yours include the ACCA, all have, I believe I'm right in thinking all the major institutes have an apprenticeship route now. I think you're going to find that we're going to get much more back to the days of the practitioner, the small practice, now able to genuinely train quality staff and qualified staff, which was taken away from us some years ago with costs, etc. But I think with the apprenticeship route, it's going to make a big difference. So I think in the immediate term, yeah, it's a bit hard to get staff, but I think the long-term prospects are looking a lot better, and I think the apprenticeship route is the answer for small practices, certainly in smaller areas, in rural areas, but certainly small practices. It will make a big difference, and it'll make a big difference to our profession. We'll get different people involved. Much better, in my opinion, we'll get a much more diverse profession.
And Craig, ACCA recently had a report on breaking down the barriers of recruitment. Yeah. Could you talk to us a little bit about how that came about and why that's more important than ever to reach out to people who wouldn't ordinarily think that they fit the mould of an accountant?
Yeah, well obviously from an ACCA perspective that goes right back to our founding in 1904, the access to all of ability and ambition. And it was a way of modernising and bringing that into 2017, 2018. That's every bit as important now. We've got things like apprenticeships coming in, which is going to help small practices, help all employers, but help particularly small practices really capture different types of people, different backgrounds, different aspirations, different skill sets, and bring them into the profession. And I think ACCA, with that research, it was demonstrating the profession, whilst we're doing a lot, we still need to do more to encourage people into the profession and to keep them in the profession and break down some of those artificial barriers which still are there in terms of promotional prospects. And we just need to make sure that we take it forward, not only just the access, but right through to someone reaching the end of their careers.
And Della, you put together some articles for us as well on AccountingWEB about apprenticeships and working with schools. Could you talk to us a little bit about your own experience with going down that route?
We found apprentices are fabulous, and the last time we recruited an apprentice, we actually advertised for customer services assistant, who was numerate, rather than for a trainee accountant. Because there's so much more beyond just the numbers these days. They need to be able to do the human interaction with people. They need the common sense to understand the business beyond just the numbers.
Another trend, which we always ask the question on Small Change about whether you check your emails outside office hours, and checking emails is...
Can I just interject
Sure.
and say one thing that I think needs to be said? I know Della's personally interested in this, and I know the initiative from the ACCA. We need to get more women into accountancy.
Yep.
I know that's working. You're doing a lot at the ACCA, and I know Della's, involved in that and trying to help promote women. We need to get more women into accounts, not just in tax, which has been a thing in the past. People have been saying put them into tax, but we need to get more women in accountancy.
I think that's an important point. Elaine Clark at this Accountex today, she has a Women in Accountancy roundtable.
Yes.
And one of the questions we always ask is, what's the biggest change that you've seen in accountancy so far? And it always seems like cloud is the one thing that comes forward. But when we spoke with Elaine a few weeks back, she mentioned that one of the biggest changes that still needs to happen is for women to have, like you said, Tony,
Yes.
a bigger role in the profession. So Della, you put together some articles on AccountingWEB about that several months back. Your experiences on this particular trend, do you find that it still very much is a male-dominated profession?
It is. I believe the intake is about half and half.
Yeah.
And the ACCA, I think half your council now are female?
Yes, yeah.
Yep, so you're doing a very good job. But I went to an accounting event the other day, and every single speaker was male. And there's no need for it these days. You do have enough competent women to fill those roles.
So as I mentioned just there, one of the questions was about the always-on culture, checking your emails outside office hours, how that could lead to extra stress. But whilst we're talking about that, there's also the importance of using online media as well, like social media platforms, in order to grow your practice. Tony, I know this is something you're incredibly good on social media. ACCA, obviously all you guys have a presence in Della, you as well. Have any of you got any thoughts about the importance of growing your practice through different methods like social media?
It's for each practice to make their own decision. They need to look and see what are they trying to attract, whom are they trying to attract, and then how are they going to go about it. Social media may well play a big part in that. It may not, dependent on the type of practice you are, also dependent on the locale, and if you're trying to be almost internet, that's a different issue to if you want to be a local recognised accountant. So yeah, social media is massively important, but it's for every practice to make a decision.
Della, Craig, Della, you're the social media star. Any thoughts on the...
I've just been speaking on it this morning. I love social media. We picked up about a third of our clients through social media. It's the first time I've met Tony face to face today, but we've spoken many times online. And knowing about Elaine's roundtable today as well, I'll be going along. Elaine's another person. So it's not just clients out there, it's other people who can help you.
Craig, have you got any thoughts about social media can become quite addictive, similar to your emails? Have you got any thoughts about how, whether this is a particular strain on accountants, whether the stress of emails, the stress of just keeping up with the day-to-day routines, whether that's something you found with accountants, or are they just coping?
I mean, I think as Tony said, that it's nothing new, the stress on accountants. Emails can feel that way. Because they're never ending. I think one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given by someone is never try and get on top of your emails because you'll always fail. You can never do it. I would say on the social media, it's a tool. It's a tool that you can use. It's a tool you may choose to use. Have a reason for using it if you're going to use it. Don't just do it because that seems to be the in thing.
And just to wrap up, always on Small Change, we always ask about your first calculator. So I don't know whether any of you have fond memories about your first calculator. So Della, can you remember your first calculator?
My parents actually had one as I was growing up. So my father was an engineer. You used to plug it into the mains.
Craig, first calculator?
I was actually going to say it was one with the old LED red lights, but I do actually now recall my father having one which was larger than possibly my laptop, which could add, multiply, divide and subtract.
Ooh, fancy.
It may have even had a memory.
Now Tony, I heard rumours that you certainly do remember your first calculator.
Yeah, my first calculator, I actually have a picture of it in my presentation. We couldn't work out what make it was because it was so old, the name had disappeared off it. But you couldn't plug it into the mains, it was hand cranked. So you cranked it down, but it was expensive because it had a till roll. And one of the jobs all the clerks had to do at the end of the day was rewind up the till roll, so you got 2 runs at that till because it was expensive.
Well, on that note, Della, Craig, Tony, thanks for joining us today. You can find out more information about Small Change or just about accounting in general on AccountingWEB. So for more information, we'll see you there on AccountingWEB.co.uk.